Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Kayla. Today I'm going to be sharing with you 8 acting hacks. Now I do want to say referring to them as hacks might be a little misleading because there is no substitution for actually sitting down and doing your homework and reading the script. But these are just a couple of things that will really help you in your acting if you implement them. So this first one here is super helpful, especially in auditions, because it will make your performance stand out. You know, in an audition, everyone's working from the same script. So what you can do to really make yourself stand out is with the choices that you make within that script. So trick number 1 is to play the opposite. For example, if you are given a side where your character, it's their birthday and all their friends are having a party, maybe every actor is going in and playing it as your character is just having a great time and it's their best birthday ever. If you want to make it interesting, you can play the opposite, that maybe your character is having a great time, but maybe there's one particular person that couldn't make it and that's kind of bumming them out. Or maybe they are having a great time, but there's just something else that they can't get their mind off of. Adding that little extra bit of something there, that opposite to, what would normally just be, oh, they're so excited about their party, that will make the scene interesting and can really make it stand out. Playing the opposite is basically about making the choice that's not the obvious one. That really adds interest to a scene. In a dramatic scene, instead of your character being really upset and crying, maybe they're really upset and they're so upset in fact that they almost find it funny that this could happen to them. Oh my god, this has been the absolute worst day. There's nothing that possibly could happen to them to make it any worse, and it's almost funny. Thanks. Basically, you just want to make the non-obvious choice, and that'll add a lot of interest to the scene, and it'll make it more fun for you to do as well. In a dramatic scene, the obvious choice might be, oh, my character is really, really upset and they just wanted to cry and scream. But the non-obvious choice might be, yeah, they're really upset. Yeah, they won't want to cry and scream. But maybe they're so upset that it's almost funny to them. That this could even happen to them. How could this happen? They can't believe it themselves. That might be something you could work into the scene. The next trick is relaxation and stretching. Have you ever had a moment where you were on stage or on screen maybe, and you really were feeling the scene and you really felt something inside, but then you watched your performance and there was just nothing going on here? Well, this trick helps with that. So basically, if you're really feeling it inside and it's not translating to your face, to your body, you might be holding too much tension in those areas. And likewise, if you are holding a lot of tension, especially in your face, then it might appear like you're angry or upset all the time, which is probably not the case at all in the scene. So this one's really helpful for that. There is actually an hour-long STRASBERG class on YouTube that's super helpful, and it starts with a relaxation exercise that you can use in your everyday acting. If I can find it, I will make sure to link it below so you guys can check that out for yourselves. I know it was really helpful to me. There is a monologue that I had been doing for a long time, and I really connected deeply with this monologue, and I took everything really personally. However, it was a dramatic monologue, and I was just never able to actually let loose and cry in the room. And then I learned some breathing techniques and relaxation exercises, and the last time before I performed it, I went ahead and did those, and while I was sitting in the lobby, I stretched myself out, I relaxed my face muscles, everything. I went into the audition room, and there were over a dozen different people in the room there, which is way more than I'm used to performing for. But somehow, in front of all those people, I was able to relax enough and actually let loose and tears fell, and I was just able to show my true emotions in front of them once I learned how to relax both my face and my body. Really, it can just help you to be vulnerable, because in a lot of situations, like especially on like a film set situation, there might be tons of people around you, like a huge crew of people, and yet maybe your scene is just like your character alone in their room. How are you supposed to, be as relaxed as you would when you're alone, when you're in front of that many people? Well, the exercise that I just described, the relaxation exercises out of STRASBERG, those are really, really amazing for helping you with that. Next trick that I have is for memorization, which is, like, as you know as an actor, like one of the most important things we do. Probably the most important thing that we do. If you don't have the script memorized, how are you supposed to perform it? You're not. I know that memorization is tricky, and sometimes you're given sides like last minute and you have to have them memorized. But there are several tricks that you can use for that. I'm just going to share the couple that I use that really work for me. They're really simple. So the first one is writing it down. This is one that you want to do when you have it kind of like partially memorized. I just write out, like if my character has a long monologue, then I'll take a blank sheet of paper and write that out from memory, and then I will compare it to what the actual script says, and I'll continue to do that until I get it word for word. And another one that's really great is memorizing things one word at a time. This one is amazing because that way you're not going to be butchering the words of the writer. They don't like it when you switch out one word for another because you can't remember it or because you just didn't memorize it properly. So if your character's line is, "I'm going to the park today," you'd start off by saying, I'm going to, I'm going to the park, and so on. Until you have the whole monologue memorized. Also, just throwing it in there, but when you do memorize your lines, you want to do so in a monotone voice. If you're having someone like help you with your sides and they're reading one side and you're reading the other, I would not try, and put any kind of emotion in there when you're just memorizing. It's just for the words. And if you do try and put any kind of like inflection in there, it's probably going to get stuck that way, and then if the director asks you to say it another way, you might have a difficult time doing so. So what I do, if you just imagine that you're a robot, then that's like the most monotone that you can possibly say it, and that's really, really helpful. The next trick is another one that will make your acting really exciting to watch. It's also really, really easy to do. It is to raise the stakes. So, in your personal opinion, which one is more interesting to watch? A scene where a character kind of wants something but doesn't really care that much, or a scene where a character needs something and if they don't get it, they will die? You probably chose the second one, and if you think of like all the greatest movies of our time, they go more along those lines rather than the first one. No one really wants to watch someone apathetic. They want to watch someone who cares about something, who needs something, and who is like going to get it. Are you into superhero movies? Because in those movies, like the Avengers, I know that Endgame like just came out, like the stakes are larger than life in those movies, and that's what makes them so exciting to watch. But if you're thinking, well, Kayla, like my character is not going to war. They're not a superhero in a huge battle. They're just walking into class, on the first day of school. Okay, but you can raise the stakes in literally any scene that you have, and it will make it way more interesting. So say that your character is late for school and they're running to class. It would be a lot more interesting instead of just, oh, I'm gonna be late for class, that's the stakes that I'm up against. It would be a lot more interesting to say, this is the third time that I've been late this month, and if I get one more, then I'm gonna have to be in detention for a month. You can even raise the stakes above that too. You don't have to go off of everything that's in the script. You can make some things up yourself too. So maybe not only are you late for class, but maybe, oh shoot, oh no, you forgot your project on top of that. And maybe, you were supposed to pick up your best friend on the way to school and now they're going to be pissed at you because they're missing school too. The more creative you get with raising the stakes, the more interesting your performance is going to be. The next hack is to help you keep things fresh if you have to do like a billion takes, or maybe you've been rehearsing this play for months and months and months, but you need to keep your performance fresh. All you have to do is change the stimulus. So if in a scene the person playing opposite you is supposed to tell a joke and your character is supposed to laugh at that joke, it's probably not going to be that funny after like the 50th time that you've done it. And that's going to show on camera too. So what you can do is you have to get creative and change the stimulus. So if it's just not funny to you anymore, there's a few things you could do. First of all, when you do laugh, you know, if the script says that you laugh, if you do laugh, maybe it's not a, oh my god, that's hilarious laugh. Maybe it's more like a, oh, god, like that's a thousandth time I've heard that laugh. If that doesn't work in that situation, then think of something that's legitimately funny to you. One that works no fail for me to keep it fresh if you have to laugh is if you imagine your scene partner on the toilet. You will laugh when they say that line, even if it's not funny. You will laugh. I'm not saying to resort to cheap tricks. I'm saying to be creative. The next trick is something that can help you get into a really intense scene really quickly. If you are filming a scene and the scene starts with like the worst thing ever happening and your character is in complete turmoil, then you don't really have time to like worm your way into that. It has to be like bam, full on. Sometimes you have to be able to go from 0 to 100, and it's tricky, but this is what I do when I have to do that. When I told you earlier, when you're memorizing your lines, you don't want to memorize any kind of inflection in there, any kind of emotion in there. With this situation, I do, but I do it a little bit differently. So what I do when I'm practicing at home is I make sure that I'm actually feeling that emotion when I'm saying the lines out loud. The nice thing about this is when you are practicing alone at home, you have all the time in the world that you need to get to that point when you are so angry, so sad, so happy that it's just explosive, you know. You have the opportunity to actually warm into it, whereas you wouldn't when you're in front of the camera. And once you've practiced the lines that way, then, like I said earlier, it will stick. And in a situation like this, I think it can actually be helpful. So whatever you need to do to stimulate that emotion at home, then do it. So if you need to look at images that maybe your character was thinking of in this scene, then do it. If you need to listen to the sounds that maybe your character would have heard during this scene, then do it. If you need to think back in your character's memory to some awful things that have happened to evoke that emotion, then do it. And then that day when you get to set, you won't like just have to have a lukewarm performance on the first take. You will have actually had all that preparation underneath it. The next trick is really quick and really self-explanatory, but it is to be really, 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 really memorized, like really off book. You should be able to say the lines backwards in your sleep. If you're not completely 1,000,000,000% memorized, then you won't be able to give all your focus to the other person in the scene, and you won't be able to focus on anything else either. Like, you won't be able to rely on your emotions quite as easily. You also won't be able to be quite as perceptive or to take things just as personally as you normally would be able to in the scene if you're not completely memorized. So if you need a friend to run lines with you, or if you need to make a recording that you can listen to in the car, then do it. It will really, really improve your performance. And finally, the last one. It is one of my favorites. It is so easy to do, and for me personally, it makes a huge difference, so hopefully it does for you too. And the last one, the trick is to use music in your preparation. I find music to be something that we can all relate to on an emotional level, and that usually evokes some pretty strong emotions from us. So if you are reading a scene and just like you hear music when you're reading that scene, then listen to that music when you're preparing the scene. And when it's time for you to perform, even though that music won't be playing, it will come across in your performance. The same emotion that you got the first time you read the scene, and the same emotion you got every time you listen to that song. It's really helpful because music is a huge part of movies. Like, have you ever watched a horror movie on mute before? It's not really as scary because there's not that suspenseful music. But when you're performing a scene or when you're actually in front of the camera, it's just silence. So sometimes that silence can be awkward. But if you've already prepared to a specific piece of music, then that can make a big difference in the scene. Those are all the tips that I have for today. If you liked this video, make sure to like below and subscribe to my channel. I will be posting more videos like this one for you to enjoy. Thanks everyone, see you next time.